Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2, Thursday edition Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. It's been a tough week for me emotionally with my Cubs. I'll be candid with you all. I watched on Sunday as Aaron Nola just absolutely carved the Cubs up. And then today, the Cubs faced Paul Skeens. And I thought that was going to go very poorly because Paul Skeens is really, really good. I love Paul Skeens. National champion. National pitcher of the year, first pick in the draft. He's been on this show. I tried to get him on one more time. He said, I don't think so, which was not surprising. And I don't hold that against him at all because he's got better things to do when he's in Baton Rouge than come talk to me. But I was thinking it wasn't going to go very well. The Cubs hit 3 home runs off Paul Skeens in one inning today and are leading 8-3 in the 9th inning. So one LSU ace dominates the Cubs on Sunday. The Cubs get the best of one LSU ace today. That concludes our Cubs talk for this portion of the show. Let's talk some LSU baseball, specifically LSU's resume as it relates to the field of 64. We haven't really done this to this point because it's not worth doing in March or April. It's May now. So it's now time to take a look at what LSU looks like to the committee. And I'll tell you this, like right off the bat, it's good. LSU's in a good spot. I cannot tell you why LSU's RPI went up 4 spots on Wednesday after beating Southeastern Louisiana. I don't have a good explanation for that. I looked at the RPI pretty extensively as far as what happened with teams. I can tell you that North Dakota State, who LSU beat twice in February, moved up 11 spots. I can tell you that Omaha, who LSU took 2 of 3 from and actually lost a game to, moved up 17 spots this week, and maybe that had to do with it. But I doubt it. Like there's a lot of volatility in the RPI because if you don't know, this is a pretty simple way of boiling it down. The RPI deals with your wins and losses, your opponent's wins and losses, and your opponent's wins and losses. So it's a big formula. And the only reason I bring it up and start talking about that is because the committee over the past 5 to 7 years has really leaned on the RPI. It just is what it is. And there was an Arkansas team that won 20 SEC games and did not even host a regional because of the RPI. Last year, Georgia won 17 SEC games and was a top 8 national seed because of the RPI. So it's a big deal. And after LSU beat Tennessee on Sunday, Monday morning, the RPI was 9. And that's a fine place to be in to get a top 8 seed. 9, you're right there. But I was looking at the top, and I'm going, okay, there's Texas, there's Georgia, there's Vanderbilt, there's Auburn. Like, there's a lot of SEC teams that are currently ahead of LSU, and there's one right behind them in Texas, and you know how volatile this thing can be. LSU played one midweek game, and it moved 4 spots. Now, it was to the good, but you're talking about you want to be in the top 8 for an RPI. And LSU right now is at 5. But you've got Arkansas right behind LSU. You play Arkansas next week. Tennessee's knocking on your door at 10. So there are a lot of SEC teams around. And I will be very honest with you. I'm leery of how many SEC teams surround LSU in this thing because I think the committee oftentimes tries to spread the wealth. It's stupid, it's wrong, it's incorrect, it's foolish, but I think they try to do that. I think if they believe there is a splitting hairs situation with Southeastern Conference versus another conference, and the SEC's already got 5 top 8s or already got 7 hosts, that they're more likely to try to share the wealth because they don't want to just saturate the entire thing with the SEC. Here's the deal. The SEC's way better than everyone else. Way better. Way better than the Big 12. The Pac-12 doesn't exist. Miles better than the Big 10. And oh yeah, the ACC, who got 4 teams into the national to Omaha last year, the SEC, way better than them too. Because the SEC teams all get there and win national championships, and the ACC gets there and chokes. So I'm leery of the SEC. Now, I should have said this right at the top of the discussion because it's the most pertinent thing. I'm not talking about LSU getting screwed if they win 20 league games and getting left out for Vanderbilt. If you take care of your business, then we don't have a discussion. This is a talk show, however, so we're going to have a discussion, and it comes into play if LSU finishes with 18 or 19 league wins, and Auburn or Vanderbilt has 17, 18, 19 league wins as well. Georgia in the same boat. Tennessee in the same boat. So this is purely a discussion based on, okay, what if LSU stubs their toe in College Station and only gets 2 in Columbia, maybe loses a series against Arkansas? Not all those things, but if you finish with 18 or 19 league wins, because LSU's non-conference strength of schedule is terrible. It's 219th. Vanderbilt's is 87th. Auburn's is 76th. Georgia's is 113th. Like, those are 100-point gaps in non-conference strength of schedule. You look at strength of schedule on its own merit. LSU's is 28th, which is not a disaster, but it's 28th. Auburn 1, Vanderbilt 3, Georgia 4. There's a difference there. You can look at Clemson. They're better than you there. North Carolina, better than you there. So the strength of schedule metric is not going to play in LSU's favor. And right now, your quadrant 1 is just about on par with everybody. You're a couple games over 500 at 9-7. You look at some of the other teams. Georgia's 12-9, 3 games over. Vanderbilt's 11-10, 1 game over. Auburn's 11-9, 2 games over. Arkansas is 8-5, 3 games over. Everybody's kind of jumbled there, and they're jumbled in the RPI. What LSU has to guard against is strength of schedule, and then what we talked about 2 days ago, which I'm going to leave in the past, but the Missouri factor that I explained, where if you got to play Missouri, that's a big feather in your. That's a detriment potentially because they're so bad. If you didn't, maybe that's a feather in your cap. So to me, like, I look at where LSU stands, and I'm putting out part of the negative aspect to come full circle and come around and say those things exist, but LSU's in really good shape. Really good shape. Only one team in college baseball has more wins than LSU. That's Texas. And the committee still knows that you play in the hardest league in the conference. You were in second place in that league at 14 wins. You were 5th in the RPI trying to get a top 8. And I've said this forever and ever, amen. If you get the 8 seed or the 1 seed, I don't care. As long as you're in the top 8. I don't see an advantage to being 2 as opposed to 7. I don't see an advantage as being 1 instead of 4. Like, I don't really care. If you're trying to avoid Paul Skeens, maybe we'll talk about that in Omaha. Nobody exists like that that's in the top 8. I'm fine with LSU playing whoever it is in the NCAA tournament. I'd kind of prefer you don't play Florida State, but I can't control that. So I just want any seed from 1 to 8 will do just fine for me. And oh, by the way, you can't really forecast who's going to make it to Omaha. Like, Tennessee was the best team I've ever seen 3 years ago. They didn't even get there. So I just want to get in the top 8. LSU is in a great spot to get in the top 8. And you have 9 quad 1 opportunities coming up. Texas A&M on the road is quad 1. Arkansas at home is quad 1. Even South Carolina on the road is quad 1 right now. Now, if South Carolina loses 6 straight league games before you get there, that math may change a little bit. But if they can just hold their own in the next 2 series and win 1 game in each, I think against Auburn and Florida, they'll still be in quad 1. So LSU overall is in very, very good position. You just need to hold serve. And I believe as we sit here, if you want me to bring this thing all the way to a prediction or a feeling that I have, I think 19 is the cutoff. I think at 19-11, LSU hosts a super regional should they get there. I think you're a top 8 seed at 19-11, regardless if you go to Hoover, and that would probably be a Wednesday game and lose. It's single elimination all the way through Hoover for those that aren't aware of that. Everybody's going to Hoover. Missouri's going to Hoover. 0-30, 2-28, whatever, they're going to Hoover. And it's single elimination once you get there. If LSU can get to 19 wins, I think they're safe. And how do you get to 19 wins? You got to go 5-4 the rest of the way. So I think LSU needs to win 1 of the next 2 series, which means 3-3, right? And then you go to Columbia needing to get 2 out of 3 against a bad South Carolina team. So ultimately, win 2 out of your next 3 series, but more practically, win 3 of the next 6 games at Texas A&M and, of course, at home against Arkansas. One more little fly in the ointment that really shouldn't be an issue, but I will bring it up. We talk about midweek games all the time, right? Don't lose on Tuesday. I can't put this any more clearly. Do not lose on Tuesday. And 99% of you driving around in the car right now go, well, who the heck do we play on Tuesday? You play Grambling. And Grambling's terrible, and LSU should not lose to Grambling. They're number 280 in the RPI. Just don't do that, okay? Just do whatever it takes to beat Grambling by one run, okay? You probably rule them, if I had to guess, but don't lose to RPI 280 in a midweek game with a week and a half to go in the season. I don't think we have to talk any more about that because it's pretty much not going to happen. I'll bring it up on Tuesday when the game is coming up. But that's just the one thing that I'll toss that in there because you lose that game, you are backing up in the RPI. You can't lose to RPI 280. So that's just one little piece. But big picture, and if you'd like to read more about this, I've got a whole piece up that details the whole thing on LouisianaSports.net called, what's it called? I think it's Resume Review. There you go. It's up there at LouisianaSports.net right now. LSU in very, very good spot right now as far as their postseason resume is concerned. Just need to keep things moving. Just move the chains. Slow, methodical drive. Run the triple option. Get 4 yards here, 4 yards here, 6 yards here. Just don't lose a lot of yards. Don't take a sack. Don't fumble the ball. Get what I'm saying? They're in good shape. So that's my start to the hour here, second hour on this Thursday. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. I know most of you listening have had really, really good steaks, and most of you listening have had really bad steaks. Well, what's the difference? Well, it's the fat content. If you talk about intramuscular fat, which is an IMF score, that's where you find that premium beef. If you got 4% or worse, you're talking about select beef. That's 30% of the beef that's out there. 60%, the majority of beef, is choice. You're looking at 4 to 8% with that IMF score. 9% and better is prime. 9% is prime Angus beef. You're talking about great marbling, ribeyes, fillets, 9%. Sagrera Farms, just north of Baton Rouge. Right now, walking around on the farm, they did an ultrasound this week with a vet. 9% is prime. They've got 12s, 14s, 17s, 18s walking around on that farm. It is truly in the top 1% of beef nationwide. So if you want the opportunity to just go to your freezer and get some of the finest beef in the country all summer long, go see Sean Sagrera at Sagrera Farms. He will sell you a side. He will sell you a whole cow to put in that freezer. Just got to give him a call. 719-1723, 719-1723. It's an incredible process that most of you probably haven't gone through. Go to the farm. They'll wrap it for you. They'll vacuum seal it. They'll send it right out with you. It's Sagrera Farms. Call Sean Sagrera, 719-1723. Sagrera Farms bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. Come back with Chris Blair next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Chugging right along here on this Thursday. Let's head to College Station, Texas. That's where we'll find the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, good enough to give us some time on Thursdays. Chris, you getting your mail sent to Alec Box Stadium yet? You're spending some late nights there.
No, and the good news is the team left yesterday, and I'm going to run over there tomorrow. So I get a little extra time here in Baton Rouge, although, I'm sure I know what I'm missing, 2 extra days in Bryan College Station, but I'll survive.
It doesn't appear that the weather looks awesome for tomorrow. I'll just let that in for you. So y'all, nothing you haven't seen before. Just bring some good. Do they still have that ice cream deal at Bluebell Park in the press box? Where there's just like a ton of ice cream, a freezer full?
Well, I think times have changed. Used to first maybe 3-5 trips I was there. Yeah, it was given away. Now they're you got to kind of go ask and go looking for it and sneak into suites. So they're not as free giving as they used to be. I don't know if that's just LSU or for everybody, but yeah, not as much Bluebell flowing around like there used to be.
You got to fund the NIL. Got to make folks pay for stuff like that. You can't be giving stuff away. You got to pay the players. So that's the way that
you
it's.
Got it.
All right, we'll talk about LSU. I contended on Twitter that Sunday was the biggest game of the season for LSU, and they may have played their best game. What did you see from the Tigers on Sunday in that one?
Yeah, I do think they played their best. It's interesting. You look back at the season, And, this is a team that for the year is batting .329 with runners in scoring position. And when you look at, the recent lows, if you will, for this team, starting with Auburn, that was a weekend where they were just over. They just weren't able to do so. And that's, again, I kind of left the Auburn weekend thinking that's not who this team is. Now, you're going to have that from time to time. Quite amazing that they struggled over 3 games, similar in the midweek loss to Northwestern State. So, again, that's not who this team is. And Sunday, to me, looked like who this team is. Now, granted, first 2 games of the weekend against Tennessee, you're talking about, really good pitchers for both teams. I thought we were treated to a battle with Cade Anderson and Liam Doyle. I thought Marcus Phillips was maybe even a tad bit better, at least more successful against LSU in Game 2. So you expect there to be a little more offense every weekend once you get to Game 3. But, LSU they just dominated that game offensively from the word go against the starter for Tennessee. So that's who I think this team is. Does that mean they'll do that every time out? No. Does that mean that there won't be pitchers they run up in that challenge them a little bit more? Absolutely not. And they'll see that a little bit, I think, this weekend now that, Texas A&M's got some of their healthy guys back. They've been able to reposition their infield and outfield. And obviously over the last 4 weeks, I think that's the team we'll see starting tomorrow, not the team that started the season and started SEC play. When you consider they took 2 of 3 in Knoxville, took 2 of 3 in Fayetteville, swept a struggling South Carolina team. And even though they got swept in Austin, I can vouch for how good that Texas team is. And those were games that A&M had a chance to win all 3. They were low-scoring, one-run games. So that's who I think LSU is going to play. The good news is I think this LSU team, to your point, looks more like what they have been consistently over this season in Sunday and, again, the midweek against a pretty good Southeastern team, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. That could be back here in a few weeks if they were able to win the Southland tournament. I've seen a lot of relievers try to start in LSU, and it hadn't gone very well. Matty Ott tried it, didn't go very well. Zach Hess tried it. It was okay. Chase Shores was a really good reliever a couple of years ago that has kind of struggled as a starter. Kason Evans didn't seem to have many issues on Sunday.
Yeah, again, I think Tony Vitello after the series kind of said it best. He really was sure that Kason Evans was going to be pitching in pro ball this year, and then to see him come out and start Game 3 and dominate the way he did against a very potent Tennessee offense kind of tells you all you need to know. It was a great outing for Kason, after giving up the 2 runs early, and then he settled down and really quieted the bats. And, Jay's kept it pretty close to the vest. I imagine officially nobody will know until probably Sunday morning or once we arrive at the ballpark. But I think it's going to be awfully hard not to have him in there because he's proven he can do it. And, talking to Jay after the weekend, he let us all know that was kind of the plan. Saturday before Game 2, he kind of told Kason, hey, look, we got a chance to win. We're up or we're down a run and we got a shot late in the game. You're going to go in Saturday. If not, you're going to start on Sunday. I kind of don't see that plan changing depending on what happens the first 2 nights and depending on whether or not we got to play 2 on a certain day due to weather. I think all of that's going to be in flux and the decision will be made, and we'll find out about it later.
I kind of got some flashbacks to last year over the last couple of games with Michael Braswell, who kind of caught fire there in Hoover and then in the regional as well. And we saw that again the last week. Does that look familiar to you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. 2 home runs, his first 2 come in this series, which is on the back half of the season. And, we really didn't consider Michael a power hitter, and that's not really what we were looking for, and that's just kind of extra. But, again, he's been pretty consistent at the plate in SEC play, as opposed to his overall batting average. But, I think Buzzy said it best. You've got some great talent, and you can make certain changes at third base or in the order if you wanted to, depending on the pitching matchups. But a lot has to be said for the veteran experience that Brazzy has. And I think he's well suited at third base defensively for you. If there was a knock last year, it was maybe he didn't have the biggest range of a shortstop in the SEC. I think, though, his smoothness and his consistency really fit well, even at the hot corner at third base. So I really don't see him not being in the starting lineup down the stretch. And he certainly offensively, coming off this past weekend and what he's done of late, it makes it awfully hard to do so.
For sure. You've done this a lot longer than me. You had the coach's show back earlier this week. Did you find a new way to ask about Derek Curiel? Because I'm finding myself struggling with new things to talk about.
No, I mean, Jay said the same thing. Jay was like, we're running out of words. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to carry a pocket thesaurus to come up with new ways to describe Derek Curiel. I mean, he and I were laughing after the game Tuesday night, where, again, he's gone 9 for 9 since his reach base streak ended with a couple of home runs. He's led off with a home run now 3 of the last 5 games, a couple of doubles, 6 runs batted in. It's kind of remarkable. And I looked around today, and there's obviously a lot of great freshmen in the Southeastern Conference, but I got to tell you, with 3 weekends remaining, I just don't see how he's not freshman of the year. I mean, he could be, you take his numbers, he's up near the top in so many different offensive categories overall in the SEC. He could be a candidate for player of the year, and he's a true freshman.
There's no doubt. I mean, I hadn't thought about that until you just said it, and I'm trying to motor through guys in my head. I mean, well, he will always having a big year at Arkansas, I think. But he's certainly in the mix for player of the year. I would have to think at this point, hitting 380 something with 6 or 7 home runs and an on base over 500. I don't know how he couldn't be in the mix there for sure. You've been to Bluebell Park a few times, as you mentioned. This has not gone the way that A&M fans wanted it to, but I gotta think that as loyal as that fan base is, they're going to be supporting them until they can't anymore, and it should be pretty packed this weekend. You think?
Yeah, no, they'll be packed. Bubbles will be flying, and
Stupid.
all the great traditions they have there. But I think this is an important weekend for them, and that's why it's a little bit scary for LSU, which is why I'm glad the Tigers have played the last 2 games the way they have, because I don't think it sets them up to being comfortable going into this series. And I know Jay has told them, look, this team we're going to face, you don't even need to look at records, conference or otherwise. We need to see what they've done here of late when they've gotten everybody back. And Coach Early's been able to really, they were kind of mixing people around both in the infield and outfield, and they were a error-ridden team to start this season. But now they've got a couple of guys back who are veterans that are in their natural positions on the diamond, and they're a very, very good team. And for me, Texas A&M, the math still, there is a chance. There's still some math there for them to get. However, this weekend to me is the biggest because they got Missouri, which, no offense to Mizzou, I feel like Texas A&M will certainly be able to win that series. And then they finish on the road at Georgia. So to me, being at home against LSU with a chance to pick up 3 conference wins means this kind of is the make or break. Because if LSU goes over there and successful in those 3 games, I think the math then goes against A&M.
My 3-year-old's really good at popping bubbles, so if you need me to send him with you, I don't know how good Francaz is at knocking those things out of the way, but my 3-year-old's good at it if you need some help this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be good to have. And hopefully we just don't see a lot of them.
That'd be good.
The best part.
Safe travels over there. We'll talk next week. Thanks, Chris.
You got it, boss.
He is Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. You can catch him all weekend long over in Bryan College Station. I'm transparent about this. I think there are some really cool things about Texas A&M. I'm being very serious. I think their stadium in football is incredible. I think their passion's awesome. I think the Aggie War Hymn is awesome when they do the swaying and stuff. I think the bubbles at the baseball stadium is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Just putting that out there. We'll talk a little bit more about that series to come. 30 minutes left to go on Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, just incredible to work with from an insurance perspective. I've told this story a number of times. I could get a little bit more into the weeds with my insurance experience, but I'll just make it pretty simple for you. They dealt with a prospective client a few months ago who had 5 locations, and all 5 of those locations were on one general liability policy, and it had $1 million total on 5 locations. They were able to look at the policy and go, well, I can get you $1 million on each location for the same premium. And they did that. So you got $5 million of coverage. If all you're doing when you get your insurance renewal is go, okay, what's the premium? Well, you're maybe missing an opportunity there, an opportunity at better coverage, an opportunity to better cover your business. If you're a business owner and you're just looking at premiums, maybe look at it a different way. The Highland Insurance Group is happy to do that. They're experts when it comes to auditing, reading, and correcting policies to make sure that your commercial insurance program is placed in the right place with the right market. And they've got dozens of them as an independent broker. Call Jonathan Carbo or check them out online, HighlandIG.com. They're based right here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide as well. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Back here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. Looking for the best in beef. Raised on grass, finished on grain. Top 1% nationwide. You're talking about Sagrera Farms, and it's just outside Baton Rouge up in Ethel. Call Sean, 719-1723. Fill that freezer with the best ground beef, ribeyes, fillets, strips, flanks, whatever the case may be. They got it there for you. They'll sell the sides or whole cows up at Sagrera Farms. And if you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it. It's incredible, incredible stuff up there at Sagrera Farms. Todd McShay, who's now working with the Ringer, put together a mock draft for 2026. Okay, it's a little early. We get it. Just a touch. But it's interesting for a couple of reasons. Let's start with the great reason that it's interesting. Amazing reason. He's got Garrett Nussmeier going number 1 overall in that mock draft. And that's a pretty good spot to be in. Now, Garrett Nussmeier has not taken a snap next year, and I don't know what that's going to look like. But I'll tell you this. I would rather go into a season with my quarterback being mocked number 1 overall by some pretty reputable draft analysts than not have that. So that is a great starting point for LSU. I've been pro Nussmeier really since he beat Wisconsin. And I thought last year he played really well. I thought he made some foolish mistakes. I thought he turned the ball over in some crucial moments in College Station, and it was not perfect. And I'm not here to sell you a bill of goods that it was perfect. But I think he's really good. I think he's got a really good understanding of what he's trying to do offensively. I think he's got a really good arm. I think he's accurate. I think he makes aggressive throws that work out. And I'm not ready to stand here and trade him for a single quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. Not DJ Lagway, not Arch Manning. I'm not ready to trade him for anybody. Now, you may, and reasonable minds can differ, I guess, as they say, but I feel really good about where LSU is with Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. And I've said that repeatedly. I will say that in June. I will say that in July. I will say that in August. And then we'll see in September. Speaking of September, we should get to the other part of this mock draft that was quite interesting, and maybe for not the best reason. Todd McShay projected 6 Clemson players in the first round. 6. Peter Woods, defensive tackle. Their quarterback, Cade Klubnik, who he's got as a top 10 pick. TJ Parker off the edge. That's 2 defensive linemen in the top 10 from Clemson facing an LSU offensive line that's replacing 4 starters, maybe 5. Blake Miller on the offensive line, Avion Terrell at cornerback, Antonio Williams at wide receiver. 6 in the first round. Now, there's a chance that not a single one of those guys goes in the first round. It's a mock draft 12 months early. But that does suggest there is a massive amount of talent, high-end talent, on this Clemson team. And this is my feeling, and this is going to be one that splits it right down the middle. There will be 50% of people that say, you're a moron, shut your mouth. If you're scared, go to church. There will be 50% that say, you're right on the money. But I'm not budging. This game shouldn't be on the schedule. It just should not be on the schedule. I watched Indiana waltz into the playoff playing schools that were just atrocious. I don't think it matters who you beat. And I think LSU ought to be playing Stetson, or Stetson probably doesn't have a football team. I was just trying to grab a team right out of the air that kind of sounded like Clemson. One I've been going with, they should be playing the Citadel. Should be playing Rice. And nobody likes those games, and nobody wants to watch those games. And guess what? For my business to talk on the radio the week before the Clemson game and to write stuff on LouisianaSports.net, more people will be watching the videos, listening to our radio station, and reading stuff if LSU plays Clemson. And that's great for our business, and that's an important thing, and I'm excited for that aspect of it. But if you're talking about competing for championships and winning them, you don't need this game on the schedule. If you're going on the road into one of the top 10 programs in the country, if I'm being conservative, because you can't schedule an SEC team in the non-conference, obviously. So where could you have gone that would be more ambitious than at Clemson? You go to Ohio State, you go to Oregon, and that's probably it. I'm not putting Michigan in that camp right now. Texas and Oklahoma aren't eligible for that anymore. USC's not great. Like it's Clemson, Ohio State, and Oregon, or probably Penn State or the Notre Dame. That's probably the worst you could do in terms of difficulty level. And LSU is playing that this coming year. And that is inherently putting your team behind the 8 ball. Now, look, LSU used these games as a springboard in some great seasons. LSU played Virginia Tech in 2007 and beat the brakes off of them. LSU played Oregon in 2011, coming off a national championship berth where they lost to Cam Newton. And they had a lot of those guys back, and they beat the brakes off of them. And if you want to say, if you're going to be a championship team, you got to beat tough teams. But I'm one of the people who stood there in December of 2011 and said, man, I really wish Oklahoma State was on the other sideline before the game ever kicked off. Because those who say to beat the man, to be the man, you got to beat the man, actually incorrect. To be the man, you have to beat whoever's on the other sideline. And when you control the other sideline, it generally behooves you to give yourself a little bit of advantage there. LSU doesn't feel that way. Now, they haven't put any more of these games on the schedule in the last couple of years. So we'll see if that philosophy is changing. And I know that Verge Osbury puts these schedules together, and I've heard him on the record say, no, we're going to be a championship program. We're going to go play marquee games. And there's a part of that that's very admirable, and it's great for LSU's brand, and LSU's very visible, and there's advantages to that. But when you continue to go out there and lose opening games and put yourself behind the 8 ball before Labor Day even starts, a lot of that is on the football team for not executing, and some of that's on scheduling. Because I can promise you, if you put me in charge of scheduling, I can promise you this with 100% certainty, LSU will start 1-0. If I'm in charge of scheduling, LSU will start the season 1-0. I can make that happen automatically. And that hasn't happened. And it appears like I'm not, up until I listened to this Todd McShay podcast and heard what he had to say, I didn't know anything about Clemson's team other than Kane Klubnik was the quarterback and Dabo Swinney was the coach. Like, I don't know any of Clemson's personnel. It's March. It was March. Now it's May. And I'm sitting here breaking down college baseball RPIs. Like, that's the mode I'm in right now. But when something like this pops up, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and I start listening because Garrett Nussmeier's the number 1 pick, and then I keep listening, and I go, oh, well, there's a Clemson guy at 3. There's a Clemson guy at 6. There's a Clemson guy at 8. There's a Clemson guy at 9. There's a Clemson guy at 27. There's a Clemson guy at 28. I'm going, that's a lot of Clemson guys. And that's where LSU's headed. So, man, the eyes of the country will be fixated on 2 places on Labor Day weekend. They'll be locked into Texas and Ohio State, and those 2 teams are playing. LSU's not on an island here. A lot of teams do it. Those 2 teams are playing, and game day will be there, and Corso will do his last headset pick there. But everybody will also be watching LSU and Clemson, and that is big time for your brand. And that is going to create a massive amount of excitement in this city. It's going to create a massive amount of excitement in the state of South Carolina. And the winner of that game will be in a great position to go to the college football playoff. But the loser of that game has got to walk a high wire from Labor Day to Christmas. And that is really hard to do. And I knew it was going to be hard just based on the logo and the location. Clemson on the road is going to be hard no matter what. But Clemson on the road with these guys that Todd McShay thinks are first-round picks, that makes life a little bit tougher because we know there was a run there for about 6 years where Clemson was always really good, and the last couple of years haven't been as good. The DJU years weren't very good post-Trevor Lawrence. And it's reasonable to suggest, as Dabo Swinney doesn't go into the transfer portal and supplement things that way and talks about how they're not going to get in the NIL game, they're going to do it in the name, image, and likeness of Jesus Christ instead of money. Like, you could think if you're not going to do the transfer portal and you're not going to pay players, like, you're probably not going to be very good. But it looks like they're pretty good. So LSU will certainly have their hands full when they go to Clemson, South Carolina. And I couldn't pick Blake Miller, offensive tackle, who could be a first-round pick if he walked right through that door and shook my hand. I have no idea who he is. Todd McShay knows who he is. He thinks he's pretty good at football. So I'll take his word for it before we get into all this in the summer. But it just seems like a daunting task that LSU is facing. But hey, if you're going to face a daunting task, you might as well do it with who Todd McShay thinks is the number 1 quarterback on the board, which we started this conversation with is a very, very positive thing. So that's what Todd McShay has to say about LSU and Clemson entering the 2025 college football season. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. We'll step aside one more time. Come back and close it out. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I never really considered closet space in my single years. Just wasn't something I cared that much about. Bought a house. Closet space wasn't great. Who cares? Well, my wife-to-be moves in, and she looks at the closet space and goes, this is pathetic. She hated it. We had to put coats in different hallway closets, stuff in other rooms. We just didn't have room for all her stuff and all my stuff. Well, you can change that. We moved and prioritized closet space. You don't have to move to do that. You can have David Duvall and his team come in and help you with your closet. He will customize it to your specifications, get the right amount of drawers and cubbies and mirrors and racks and shelves and tie racks and things that can use that space most efficiently so you don't feel cluttered and crammed. We had suitcases in there. It was a disaster. David Duvall can help you with all of that. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com. 18 months, 0% financing, same as cash if you qualify. Get that free consultation with David and his team today. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms. Premium beef. Top 1% in the country, and they know it. Had a vet come out this week, do some ultrasounds on their beef. You're talking about the best in premium Angus beef. They had the intramuscular fat scores. You're talking about 9+ is prime. That's the best of the best that you get at the best of the best steakhouses. 9% is prime. They got 12s, 14s, 17s, 18s on the farm right now at Sagrera Farms. If you would like to get that in your freezer as quickly as possible, I highly suggest you give our guy Sean Sagrera a call at 719-1723. They've got a meticulous scientific process. It's a 3-year journey to raise and breed these cattle, and the product is a consistent, unbelievably flavorful, and marbled meat. I'm a ribeye guy. Maybe filet is your deal. Want the best burger? Ground beef. They got you covered at Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. Give Sean a call, 719-1723. That's 719-1723. All right, one segment to go here for me this week as I'm out tomorrow. Musso will be in the captain's chair. We'll probably talk a lot of baseball, if I had to guess, as LSU and Texas A&M get ready to battle this weekend. And I told you to start the show. Like, if LSU can take care of their business this weekend and get at least 2 games, you are in a phenomenal spot to get a top 8 national seed, and that is obviously the goal, to make the road to Omaha paved through Alec Box Stadium. So we'll see how they do this weekend. I gave a preview at the top of the show. We certainly talked to Chris Blair as well. So we'll see how it goes this weekend. We got one thing left to do, and that, of course, is take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, Mr. Palmer. The Timberwolves beat the Lakers last night and eliminated them from the NBA playoffs. That was LeBron's last game as a Laker. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I have no idea how that's going to work out. I mean, is he going to get Bronny traded too? They got to go. Are they a package deal? Package deal to wherever he wants to go next. I mean, he's got to be at the end of the rope here. He's playing great, right? But he's not going to win another title, is he?
I wouldn't. I don't know where you'd go to do it.
I mean, you're not going to play with anybody significantly better than Luka. I would have to think. I mean, unless you're going wherever Giannis is going to end up, you're going to go with him. They're kind of the same player. I think he's still really good, and he can put up his numbers for another couple of years if he wants to, but I just can't imagine we're going to see a bunch of LeBron into mid-June anymore.
Michigan State Athletic Director Alan Haller is out after 5 years in the department. Deputy Athletic Director Jennifer Smith and longtime men's basketball coach Tom Izzo will serve as co-interim athletic directors during the search for Haller's replacement. Hiring your next boss. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. That's a good gig. What is Izzo going to do? Like, he's going to monitor the softball program?
He's going to help find the next AD. He gets to hire his next boss.
Okay. I've got a feeling that boss is not going to have firing power over Tom Izzo. It's just a hunch I have that in that contract line, page 47 is going to say, by the way, you can't fire Izzo. So Yeah, whatever. I'm not as concerned with what's going on in East Lansing, Michigan, but I'm tickled by like that thought, like Izzo is going to do anything as the interim co-AD. He's the basketball coach. He's going to go recruit basketball players and develop basketball players. He's not going to go worry about what the tennis team's doing.
Raiders general manager John Spytek told reporters
I'm sure he told
him
something really smart.
Oh, he did. He
Raiders
told him
usually
leading
come up with good stuff.
To the NFL draft, he said that his son would be walking out on the family if they didn't take Ashton Jeanty. Well, he said he wanted to give his son credit for helping the Raiders draft Jeanty. He said he involved his kid because he heard the Chicago Bears were considering trading up to take him. He said, I involved my kid in the Ashton Jeanty case just maybe to get people to think that, well, he would never do what a 10-year-old says. And he also said that wasn't the only trick up his sleeve. He also intentionally did not bring in Montana State quarterback Tommy Mellott for a pre-draft visit because he didn't want teams to know that the Raiders were interested in drafting him. The Raiders did end up drafting Mellott at the end of the sixth round. John Spytek is a genius. Take it or leave it.
You got to take it based on the evidence. I mean, I can only go off the evidence that's presented, and that's just genius. He's throwing him off the scent by getting the 10-year-old involved, and then just a complete rabbit out of the hat. First guy in NFL history to draft a guy he didn't bring in for a visit. Amazing stuff. The Raiders continue to set the bar in terms of being progressive and forward-thinking in the National Football League.
Was there anybody before or after his son wanted him to draft Ashton Jeanty that thought the Raiders weren't going to take him if he was there at 6? Is there a team in the world that thought that?
I don't know. I was at the beach just hanging out.
Also, you draft a quarterback that you didn't bring in for a pre-draft visit.
Yeah.
I got news for him. Nobody would have known if you brought in the Montana State quarterback for a pre-draft visit.
I certainly would have.
I've seen Tommy Mellott play. Decent player. I don't think he was getting drafted.
Tommy Mellott, just like those Clemson guys, he could walk right in and tell me, hey, I'm Tommy Mellott. I wouldn't know he was drafted, nor he played for Montana State, or that he was going to go lose for the Raiders. So I would have no idea about any of that. So good for Tommy. Good for whatever the kid's name is, and good for the Raiders. We got anything else?
That's it.
That's it. All right, I can give my thoughts on LSU and Texas A&M for the last minute and a half here. I told you at the top of the show, like I really think A&M is a good baseball team. I think their coach is in over his head. But the talent, especially offensively, is really there. It will warm my heart from an LSU perspective if they can come out and really hit Ryan Prager hard. This is not Liam Doyle. This is not Kyson Witherspoon. This is not Jared Spencer. This is not Pico Khan. This is not Marcus Phillips. Like, this is not that kind of stuff. And if Ryan Prager goes 7 innings of one-run baseball, that's going to be a red flag to me. Jay Johnson said after Saturday's loss, like, Doyle and Phillips are really good, and sometimes you have to tip your hat. And I agree with that. I really do. I'm fully on board with that. I watched those two guys pitch. They're great. I don't think Prager's great. I think Prager is a nice college pitcher. And I think Lampkin is a nice college pitcher. He's certainly an SEC starter, probably right where he needs to be as a 2-starter. LSU needs to hit the ball this weekend. And if they do, then it would really justify the thought that, yeah, there's been some struggles, but it's against these top 2-round draft picks, and that may not be the case this coming weekend. So I need LSU to hit the ball. If they do that and they can get 2 games this weekend, you're really, really in a good spot. Even if you get 1, you're okay. And I realize that there are LSU fans who are, you're not going to get swept at Texas A&M. Probably not, but it happens. Like, you got swept at Auburn, and I think they're a mediocre baseball team. So they just need to make sure, get 1 out of the way early, and then see what you can do late. Cowan gives an advantage. Certainly Evans gives him an advantage. Anderson should give him a huge advantage. I'm hopeful tomorrow. I'm out tomorrow. Musa will be in the captain's chair. Appreciate y'all for hanging out today. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. I am back Monday. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. Shout out to Sagrera Farms Preview and Beef for our Thursday show. Have a great weekend. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.